Hello and welcome to STARLIT Future Necrosynthesis. This is a brand new episode of STARLIT Future. I am Ian Frost. I am joined by two of our usual field team members, Asteria and Ben.
Hello.
We are once again graced by our excellent guest star, Noir.
Yeah.
That's pleasure to have in class energy. 100%. A couple of things before we start. This is a spacefaring, episodic, intergalactic adventure, and very much in the style of another spacefaring show. You might have heard of it. This is almost completely episodic, so if this is your first Starlit Future episode, welcome. You do not need anything. You can absolutely jump in here and hopefully have a great time. That being said, if you like what you see, the entire playlist is available to see all of our previous episodes, including how all these silly guys met in the first place. So, the only other thing is that we are playing a modified version of the Kids on Bike system. Super intuitive, super easy to understand, so I'm not going to get into the sort of nitty-gritty of it. And that is truly it. So, if we are ready, let us return to space. We fade in on a starry backdrop as the Cosmic Trust flagship Mariposa rockets through the stars in its blue, shimmering warp bubble. We push in and see its sleek, rounded shape, the wings butterfly-like sweeping up and back, and we hear from the outside a voice. Chief Medical Officer's log. The Mariposa was en route to Sundrulla 2 to make first contact with the Sundrul. However, a recent opportunity has caused us to change course to Sundrulla, their original homeworld. The world that, 20 years ago, they rendered uninhabitable via prolonged nuclear global civil war. Which is, bad. So, anyway, there is fungi growing on the planet's surface that has slowly been eating away the residual radiation. So slowly that it would take upwards of 200 years before the planet could be considered habitable again. Or so the Sundrul thought. Until about 4 months ago, when the fungi suddenly began to proliferate rapidly. Really rapidly, and for no apparent reason. At this rate, according to their projections, Sundrulla could reach safe radiation levels in as early as a year, which brings me to the aforementioned opportunity. The Sundrul are sending a science team down to the planet's surface to figure out what's happening, and they've invited us to join them. I admit it makes a certain sense, considering humanity's history with radiotrophic fungi. What does not make sense to me, personally, is being asked to join this mission myself. I am not overly fond of fieldwork. I will, of course, follow Captain Okita's orders. Nevertheless, I am logging my official opinion as Chief Medical Officer that I do not agree with the decision. That's all. We push into the ship to see the medbay. A sort of off-white, rounded expanse of open spaces with hospital beds and equipment. A lot of very gently flashing lights on screens and interfaces all around the room and different doors. And we see the person who is delivering this log aloud to the computer is the Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Pluto Feng, with their perfectly angular blue face made of flat planes, their white lab coat, and their thick white hair slicked back against their head, as they're looking up sort of into the room like they're trying to think of the next thing to say. Several seconds go by before the computer voice comes alive and says, "Commander, would you like to pause the recording?" No, Amos, I was done. Sorry. That's, yes, save log. Please. Ba-doop. Okay, right, yeah. Yeah, okay. First Commander, they say into their communicator. I understand that you wanted to speak to me before we came out of warp over Sundrul. I'm free now, if you still want to do that.
Yes, thank you. I am on my way.
The few minutes pass that it takes you to come from wherever it is you're coming from. In fact, where are you coming from?
If we're currently in warp, trying to get to Sundrul, unless Okita wants me on the bridge, I think I'm coming from a walk in the Arboretum. Just
Excellent.
to pass the time.
So you step out from there, and the Arboretum, which, by the way, is also the science deck, we can see as the door sort of whooshes closed behind you. Just for a moment, we get a glimpse of the thriving plant life behind you, with like science terminals and greenhouses sort of peppering the landscape therein. A room that, at the heart of the ship, looks like it's outside. That door closes and you make your way down the hallways to the elevator and eventually to the med bay, and specifically to Dr. Feng's office. Hello.
Hello, Doctor. Thank you for allowing me to take a moment of your time.
Oh, well, that's fine. There's not too terribly much more for me to do. Last I heard, we were about half an hour from coming out of warp, so maybe about 26 minutes now.
Yes, well, I will say what I am about to simultaneously ask and propose is not urgent, but it has been weighing on my mind. Ever since we went back to Pondu and experienced the experiment in the Genesis lab, I have been wondering about the state and capabilities of Pondu technology. And I was wondering if there was any way that we could combine the technologies of transcension and the requirements that Pondu must have when inhabiting a robotic body.
Interesting. You see something sort of light up behind their eyes, and it is something that transcended humanity, as they are not an organic being. Their body is completely synthetic, but that fire is still very deeply human. Like a welcome distraction written all over their face, and they cannot hide that. And they shoot up from their chair and like walk a little bit closer to you. Go, yeah, oh, actually, that's interesting. I've wanted to give more thought to that, but I've never really had a professional reason to do so. I've never encountered a Pondu that really wanted to try and challenge the way these things normally work. I mean, we're already using, similar equipment for our bodies. They're all running on Black Vein. The only difference is that yours don't need to be sort of mapped to be controlled by the brain map of humanity. You know, that's the main difference.
Yes. Ever since I made friends with notably Terse, it got me wondering, why does the Pondu sphere have to sit in the head position?
Well, yeah, it doesn't, technically. I mean, I've heard of, you know, like battle suits with more fortified, you know, transparent material sort of sitting at the heart of a larger sort of a tank of a thing, or and not being revealed because, you know, it's cameras and such. So that is something, but short of, you know, combat or construction utility. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not going to tell you about your own culture, I was under the impression that it was largely a matter of preference and interfacing with others, sort of displaying your ability to emote to others.
That is certainly true.
Oh, good. Yeah.
But I do, I think it is no secret to anyone who knows me well that I am intrigued by and want to explore a more human experience. My question to you is, would it be possible to create a robot body where I can have a fully functioning head with the capability to speak through and emote with and feel as if I had human nerve endings, and I would just be housed in the torso?
Well, I see no reason why not. It would just be a simple matter of sort of sketching it out, and also I would need to make a detailed analysis of your response time, the level of sort of stress and multitasking that your particular electrobiology is sort of capable of taking on. There's a lot of nuance to moving, you know, small facial features with accuracy. And that's not something that, you know, your mind is like initially wired to do. But again, it absolutely can. So we'd have to figure out sort of the intersection of your dexterity and how you've controlled your fingers and like the smallest motions that you do, and sort of reverse engineering that process to create a general and then more specific map of you being able to then move even smaller sort of micro actions and then making it feel a little more effortless. You see, they're already like moving around the room, writing things down on like several different screens in the room.
And we would also see that, like, CTA is standing still, turning their body to follow wherever Dr. Feng is moving to, but the water in their bowl is like sloshing about very excitedly as they're just watching them immediately go to work on this what I would presume to them is like a new exciting prospect and puzzle, but to Constant is like a very like emotionally guarded and well thought out request. So to be immediately accepted and have the prospect be accepted enthusiastically is Dr. Fang's not paying attention to them, but if anyone was paying attention to CTA, they would be able to see the joy within the sloshing of the water.
Excellent. So you pass the rest of the time here, and we move back following the trail that you left behind, back to the Arboretum, to the Central Science Station, where standing over a uh, just a simple computer screen that's sort of at the top of a podium-like terminal. We see two figures standing over this, sort of puzzling over it, both wearing green and black, but one much shorter than the other. A 5-foot tall, fuzzy, white and gray spotted face of an Unala with bright ice blue eyes and huge curved horns that shoot straight up almost a foot out of his head, as the chief science officer, Tufti, is scratching his chin, looking down at a series of scans, and turns to his subordinate and companion, friend, I would even venture, and goes, "You know, Ruiso, I have been pondering over these scans that the Sundrul have sent us about the myconology. Of course, they have not been able to set foot on the planet yet. It's only become safe to do so recently, but I'm sort of astounded that they were able to achieve warp and space travel with such limited scanning capabilities. It's somewhat humbling to see such a young spacefaring culture. For some reason, you always sort of assume, or at least I do, that when you meet people who explore the stars, that they're going to have maybe not a similar frame of reference, but at least some sort of experience. But everything I'm seeing here is of a people who are still finding themselves.
It's an interesting, it's an interesting take, Commander. And I admit I have not really given it much thought, but what you point out definitely is interesting.
Ruiso, you are looking at a readout of scans that the Sundrul have sent you of their orbital scanners of the planet's surface from, I would say that this is a scan that they took very recently. It's their most recent scan, so it would have been maybe from about 3 days ago.
Okay.
Just to give you, like, the freshest possible take.
Mm-hmm.
And you can definitely clearly see that their scanners are not as robust as any of the peoples of the Cosmic Trust are capable of. I'm gonna have you go ahead and let me see, what kind of roll do I want to ask you to make here? It's definitely going to be a it's definitely going to be a brains roll. I will allow you to add your myconology roll based on this specific situation. So I'm going to go ahead and make the DC 12. And anything beyond that, you'll get a little bit more.
I roll with advantage because this is...
yes, because this is within your job.
Yeah, okay.
It is within the science track.
And Tufti's right next to you.
And yeah, true. And Tufti would be able to give you advantage too. So.
Good, because I was a 3 and a 1. Okay. So I rolled a 14.
14, okay. So with the sort of limiting scanning capabilities that they have, you do see that there are obvious, like, gaps. You can clearly see where this strange fungus that does seem to be absorbing radiation, it is now giving off. They themselves are giving off lower levels of radiation because it's like within their cellular biology now that they've sort of eaten it up. You're not sure where the remaining radiation is going because they are taking it in, transferring it to energy to presumably proliferate. And you can track that pattern and see, like, more and more mushrooms growing out of areas that are less irradiated you see the concentrated areas of like mushrooms that have sprouted and are now not as active because they've eaten up most of the radiation that was there.
Mhm.
And you're watching that pattern spread and spread and spread across to areas that, yeah, are less and less like initially irradiated. So it's a little odd, to be certain. You don't really get a good sense of why this fungus would be spreading so rapidly, so suddenly. And what would be spreading it other than maybe they're spores, but again, something has to carry that farther, and it's planet-wide. But I think on that 14, having sort of just barely surpassed the DC, I think you're able to see where the fault in their scanners lies. The scanner has trouble, from a biological standpoint, getting down to a microscopic level. There's only like so much penetration through the layers of radiation, through the soil. That's where you figure, as being someone who is going to be going down to the surface with the field team here, that should be your area of focus, is like what their scanners couldn't pick up.
Yeah,
So
makes sense.
this is going to lower your DC if you end up doing another orbital scan from the Mariposa that has like better scanners. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. I'll point out to Tufti that it would be more ideal if their scanners could pick up something on a more microscopic scale, but it gives me something to do when I land there, or maybe something the Mariposa can do when we arrive at the planet.
Interesting. That is a very, very keen observation. I will make sure then that the scanner that you have is programmed for a penetrative microbiological scan. Good work, and good luck, as always. I'm glad it's
Thank you.
going down there.
In the other adventures that I've gone on, I felt a little bit out of my field, but this one, I've actually studied these things, and so I'm actually quite excited.
Good. Well, excitement can keep you alive sometimes. A good thing to remember. Not that that would be a problem.
Right.
And on that, we move away from this room and up to the crew quarters. And as we move down the hallways, seeing various officers of all different kinds of ranks sort of moving to and from their quarters, some preparing for a new duty shift, as very soon we will be coming out of warp and there will be a lot of things to do as we greet a new alien culture we've never met before. So there's a lot of motion coming to and from as a shift change is imminent. We get to a closed door, and we push through the closed door and enter the quarters of one Lieutenant Veal. The lights in her quarters have been dimmed somewhat, and there is this like very elaborate sort of candelabra setup in the center of an oval-shaped table, where she sits on one side of the table with a plate of food that looks very freshly cooked, and you see that there's like a little kitchenette in her room. And this is not something that, that every room necessarily has, other than, for like refrigeration, like storage of your own snacks and stuff. Not everybody really wants to do cooking. But this indeed is a home-cooked meal here in space. I'm gonna say there's like this like big bowl of very like brightly colored salad and this very creamy sort of linguine pasta with shrimp, and you are well, Rudy Rodriguez is sitting on the other end of the table, sharing a meal, staring down the face of your collaborator, your fellow engineer, with her
we collaborate.
transcended human face with ever so slightly modeled to look like a deer. Sort of like small black nose and like the sort of brown and white flecks on her face, a little patch of white on her nose, slightly pointed ears, very like very tufty, slightly spiky sort of pixie cut. And she's sort of twirling the noodles on her fork. It's kind of a do you like it?
Oh yeah, it's great. It's been a while since I've had something this good, actually. You definitely put the cafeteria to shame.
That's not the compliment you think it is. They're really nice down there.
Yeah, but I can tell that you put some love in this one.
Yeah, well, I do love cheese. So, there's kind of an elephant, a little bit. You're going to the, irradiated planet.
Yep.
So, it brings something up for me that I've been wanting to ask you about.
Please. I love answering questions.
Well, I'm just, I think I understand why you became an engineer in the first place. I think. I mean, frankly, I can't imagine you doing anything else. But I've been wondering why you're so interested in demolitions. I mean, that's why you're going on this mission, I assume.
Well, I mean, I kind of have to go on the mission, being a member of the field team. Uh, eh, I, it's really not that complicated. I just like when things explode. I think I like the explosion. Well, sue me. Um, but I don't really, yeah, I don't like these kinds of messy explosions and stuff. I enjoyed more like the theoreticals and proving something works and then being like, all right, let's never use that again. Um,
But you know about them. I
yeah,
mean, the tragedy and history wrapped up in it notwithstanding, like, you understand the weight of it, If
yeah,
it's too personal, then please, if it's really that simple, I'll believe anything you say. I just, I don't know. I guess it's you don't see a lot of ship's engineers who are also expert demolitionists. It's just an interesting combination. Certainly not ones who do it in their bedroom.
uh, yeah. Honestly, I'm still shocked that McCallie signed off on that one. Um, as for why I do it in my room, it's more so that whenever I go to engineering, I'm always more worried about the ship and like that sort of things. I can't separate the two, so I just need an area to work on my personal projects and theories. But yeah, this planet, it's I'm just hoping that we won't find anything that needs to be disarmed. Um, because I'm not going to be looking forward to having to deal with that. Um, I'm more so just focusing on making sure that we have the right protective equipment and hoping that their scans didn't miss any hotspots. Um,
Well, you saw the same readouts I did. Their scanners may be lacking, but it'd be hard to believe that they would fail to pick up something so big.
yeah, but I mean, we believe that hard light constructs couldn't hurt us, and we know how that went down. So
Yeah, I am kind of sad I missed that one.
yeah,
Still, it's not really the macro I'm worried about, it's the micro. I mean, We just started whatever this is. And I'm not, this sounds like pressure. It's not. I just,
Oh, we're good under pressure.
I don't want you to die of radiation poisoning, and I'm sure that you won't. That's what you're there to do, because you know about stuff like that. And it's a good failsafe, and I'm, rambling now, because I'm trying not to say the very obvious thing that I am concerned. I know you'll handle it, though.
And worst comes to worst, I'll just be drinking liquid food for a while, so it's a good thing that I have this one.
I do have a blender. That can work.
Do you know, how did you even get shrimp out here?
Now that is a very interesting story that the audience will never hear as we move away. The remaining 20 or so minutes pass, and all of you are notified that the ship is coming out of warp above the planet's surface. Now, CTA, you would have been notified a little bit before so that you could be on the bridge with the captain. And so you are up there with Captain Okita, looking out the view screen as that blue shimmer fades away and the stars become fixed points once again. And the captain, standing there, sort of towering, like gently clomping his cloven right foot on the ground, he sort of turns his head halfway toward you, and the jingling of the little silver bells in his antlers chimes, sort of echoes on the bridge. He goes, "Wow, would you look at that?" And you do see the planet's surface, this comparable to Earth's size, I would say, but you can see, even just looking at the atmosphere from above, that sort of cloudy tan image of an atmosphere that is not what it should be, but better than what it could be. As you understand it, certainly better than it was. Yes. It's hard to look at, but I choose to focus on hope, new opportunity. It's nice to know that a first contact mission is truly one of aid and understanding.
Agreed. Your optimism is your best quality.
And I thought it was my fashion sense, he says, indicating to his uniform. And then he goes, right. And he turns back to Humbly Seeking Knowledge, who is currently not in a body, but rather just a floating Pondu sphere. Yeah. With his deep blue watery body sort of sloshing gently inside, showing his eagerness, and he is just remotely controlling his station via his Wi-Fi signals that he controls with his electrical impulses via his Pondu sphere. And he goes, right, well, Captain, the Sundrul are hailing us. They are waiting to receive authorization to board. He says, right, Ensign, switch the view to their ship, please. And you do indeed see the Sundrul's ship in orbit not too far from your position. And it is a very sleek, very elegant design. It is not nearly as rounded as the Mariposa, and not as shiny either. It feels very utilitarian, but not in a military way. It's strangely boxy and has a lot of like patterns carved into the surface. Like more attention was given to detailing the outside than really trying to give it a sleek shape. Strangely, it almost gives the impression of some kind of horizontal church structure. The way it comes to like angular sort of geometric points in places. Right. Put them on screen. And humbly does so. And you see, standing in front of a helm of their own, is a figure the likes of which none of you have ever seen before. You see a pale blue, actually, well, not necessarily a pale blue, kind of just a shade darker than sky blue face, with large eyes that have yellow irises that are just a little bit bigger than human scale and a little bit like set farther apart and up. Very high cheekbones, very angular face, and very square chin. You see that the most striking feature, apart from their blue skin, is they appear to have some kind of bone plate that grows up out of their forehead. It looks as though their skin sort of gives way to bone that protrudes from the bridge of their nose and then up, making almost like a naturally formed just front of a helmet that arches up over where their eyebrows would be and then juts out, almost like those that dinosaur that has like the plate that comes up and like swoops up and back here. So it goes all the way up, and so it's like a perfect plate of white bone up on their forehead. And then you see the hair behind that is like a little bit farther back than a human hairline would be, right? And their hair is like thick and black and wiry and pulled back. You see a very high collar made of some kind of golden metal with a uniform that is a little bit loose and flowing. It almost looks more like a tunic in a way underneath that. And this figure goes, "Captain, we are glad that you have made it here in one piece. We welcome you with deepest respect." He bows, and you see others behind him do so as well. And he goes, the captain says, "We are honored to be here and to be of aid. I understand that your science team is on standby. They will be most welcome to tour our ship before the work begins. I would also like to have the field team, as well as those who will be accompanying your science team on this field mission. I will have them there to greet you in the shuttle bay and be the ones to show you around. I make a point to have people try to know and understand each other before we are to work together, if at all possible." "Yes, Captain, we are of a mind about this. Our shuttle is on standby at your earliest convenience." "We shall make it so. Okida out." The screen goes to black, and the captain pings Ruiso and Rudy, wherever you may be on the ship. "I have just given authorization for the Sundrul science team to board the Mariposa. If you would please come to Shuttle Bay 5. I would like you to be among those who are there to greet them."
I'm on my way. Well, duty calls.
Right away, Captain.
Yes.
said right away, Captain.
Oh, I thought you said by the way, Captain.
By the
Oh.
way, Captain.
My
Yes.
my mistake. No. Yeah, I said right away.
Right away. Got it. Okay. Understood.
Yep.
Okay. So the all three of you, as well as Captain Okita, and Humbly as the chief cultural officer, all make your way to Shuttle Bay 5, where the docking bay door opens. That shimmering blue shield is passed through by this almost perfectly it's like a rectangular prism, and the what you imagine to be the engines, looking at it from an engineer's perspective, are also very prismatic in a way, but they also come to those sort of church-like peaks in the front. And everything is like very perfectly linear, very minimally colored. It's all very like a brick sort of red brown color, even though it is metal. And these detailed carvings all across the shuttle. It lands in the center of the shuttle bay, decompresses as the ramp comes down. You're all lined up to greet three individuals who step forward. The figure who leads the pack is, I'm going to say, about maybe just under 6 feet tall. They all have that blue skin and like bone plate forehead. They all have thick, dark black hair, but the style of their outfits and the style of their hair is the largest distinguishing factor. You don't see anything military about them. You don't see anything that seems to indicate rank, or like there's nothing that's like a pip or a symbol that you would understand. So there's no immediate reason why this should be the person who steps forward. Nevertheless, he is. And he looks a little bit older than the other two, perhaps. Though they all have very, like, smooth skin. He is wearing a similar sort of tunic-like... Now you can see it is like one piece with that gold rim made of metal up above, and it's sealed at the wrists with like gold metal bands as well, and at the ankles, and just has a sash tied around the around the midsection that is full of belt pouches. Like there's this elaborate metallic, honestly, utility belt that is sitting at the center of this sash wrapped around his waist. And he steps up to you and he bows. He says, "I am pleased to meet you. I am Dr. Narelios."
Writing that one down.
But the gnarly and Narelios, you know what I'm saying?
Narelios.
Yeah.
Doctor.
I will be coordinating our efforts on the surface and leading our scientific expedition. This is my esteemed associate, my colleague, Dr. Volan, indicates to his right a woman who is a little bit taller than he is, with long, flowing black hair that falls down back behind her shoulders, dressed in a very similar fashion, but you see that there are fewer gold bands on her cuffs. Ever so slightly. That's the only sort of variation in uniform that you see. She says, "I am pleased to meet you as well." And then he indicates to his left at what is definitely the most striking figure here. A figure who stands actually a bit taller and is much more broad and muscular. his golden collar scoops all the way up, almost up to his ears, almost as though like a big metal golden bowl is sitting holding his head inside of a chalice. Robes flow down and out around his body, but his arms are completely bare and covered in tattoos. And you can see very clearly that underneath these flowing robes there is like a bandolier, and you can see various obvious weapons, like small daggers and knives, pouches that you can't really see what's in them, and there are two very long, straight, short sword looking blades hanging from a holster at his hip. And yet there is something in his face that is so stony and calm. And you see that his hair is like shaved mostly bald, but there's a long braid that just falls straight back, like all the way down almost to like past mid back down to lower back. It says, "This is Kelzar." And as he says the name, both he and Dr. Volan sort of cross the bands of their wrists and bow slightly to this figure. This figure who simply nods at you without speaking.
Well, it is a pleasure to have you aboard. All three of you. I am Field Commander and First Officer, Constant Thoughtful Actions. With me, I have Lieutenant Ruiso of the Science Division and Lieutenant Rudy of Engineering.
It is our pleasure, certainly. Now you would be the field team, will be accompanying us on this mission.
Correct, yes.
Good to know, good to know. I would be most interested to exchange knowledge of our skills and areas of expertise.
Is the doctor here with us as well?
Dr. Feng arrives now.
Okay. Amazing.
And they all look, and there's like a quick expression on all of their faces. Difficult to read without trying to do so. That's the face of someone who wants to try.
Is that an invitation to try?
Yeah, what are we rolling?
I'm gonna say this is a social thing, trying to pick up this facial expression. I'm gonna go ahead and call it charm, and I'm gonna say it's a very obvious expression, so we're looking for a 5.
I'm adding my empathy dice.
I'll just take half.
Oh my god. I need like a...
Actually, no. We roll these. What am I talking about?
We roll these. We roll these.
I rolled a 1. I don't get it.
Oh,
I got a 14.
You get the star point.
I do.
True.
that's true.
I got a 10.
Okay, so both of you went 5 above. It is very easy to see a look of like annoyance, almost insult, for a moment.
I mean, fair.
Yeah, so real.
And with that extra level above, I think both of you clearly see a power dynamic at play happening here. Narelios is clearly in charge of the mission, but his offense, like, there's a moment where he glances to Kelzar as though like that's the person who should be most offended. And then Kelzar seems to like wave it away after a moment, and then all three of them calm down. Sorry, so sorry. There was a medical. I wanted to make sure that I was fully sterilized. We're going down to the. I didn't know how soon we were. I'm Dr. Feng. I'm the chief medical officer. Honored to meet you. Hmm. And you? The captain then like breaks a moment of silence and says, "Well, we on the Mariposa are very privileged to have a unique means of sharing our cultural experiences with you. There is a place perhaps less formal where we can get to know each other a bit better. I have many duties to prepare. I simply must be there to oversee the Mariposa scans of the surface, and I will, of course, be working with your captain as well in doing so. And so, my illustrious field team and our chief cultural officer humbly seeking knowledge. Hello there! And they all like look like they were not expecting a floating bowl of water to be a person. And they look, and then they look at you, and then they're like they're kind of figuring it out. They're like, ah, this sounds most pleasant. Yes, we shall enjoy the experience, I am sure. Please, Field Commander, lead the way. Captain, we shall reconvene after you have had time to study your scans.
Have I been briefed on where I should take them first?
So Humbly, this would be Humbly's job.
Okay.
And I think you would know that because you're the first officer, right? You would be told where you're probably going to go. And I think you would probably be going to a nice restaurant somewhere in the sort of heart of Trisca Deka, which is your onboard city.
What do I know, or what has Humbly told me about like what they eat or don't eat?
Um, so with your perfect memory recall ability as a Pondu, I will just tell you that the briefing that you have had about the Sundrul is that they prefer a vegetarian diet. You know that there are religious figures among them, and your information, again, all of your briefings about alien cultures in the unveiled galaxy that you're exploring, it all comes from a single source. It all comes from the first people you ever met, the Symphony, who have a very unique perspective about everything: time, language, communication. So you've had to decipher pretty much all of their information about everything. What they've told you about the Sundrul is that they are a very young spacefaring culture. They were involved in a religious war of some kind, but the Symphony really didn't know much about what it was about. And it was only after this, when they needed to flee the planet, that they really started actually meaningfully having like warp. So their technology is way behind most everyone else's in the unveiled galaxy, certainly very far behind yours. And you know that they don't seem to revel in violence really of any kind, but they delegate violence and security to their religious figures. So seeing this priest, or what is called a Kel, covered in weapons, there's a reason why no one made a big deal about it. Because culturally, that is very significant to them. This is like their security person, who is also their spiritual leader for the mission.
That's a wild dynamic. Okay.
Kind of based. I had a thought that it would be so toxic if we took them to the weapons bay first.
I thought you were gonna say like Korean barbecue.
Let's see.
I shall leave this to our cultural officer to take us to our first destination.
Yes. So, it is my role on the ship to ensure that our exchange of culture and information is as smooth and enjoyable as possible. I'm here to facilitate us getting to know each other better. So please, if at any point your preferences are not being honored to the degree that you would prefer, let me know as quickly as possible, and I'm sure that we can accommodate. Um, for the time being, I have selected a restaurant in our onboard civilian area as best as I can describe it for now. You will see momentarily as you're all beginning to walk. I have selected for us the Ilias Cafe. This is not a terribly formal, sort of fancy style place. I wanted something a little, quiet and nice that represented a wide array of options and would give us some space and privacy without putting too much pressure on anyone. And you see that all three of them are listening. One of them is listening a little more intently, and that one of them is Dr. Volan. She is seems to be very amused by Humbly, and is already like nodding along and talking about food options. But the other two are sort of looking around the ship, just sort of taking in the details, nodding along and responding when necessary. But this Kel does not speak ever, so far. So you reach the elevator, and you head to the 13th deck of the ship, Trisca Deka. And as the doors open, you see a brilliant simulated night sky, including a holographic moon projected overhead, and a full, thriving city with civilians, residences, people from all walks of life gathered here to demonstrate the cultures of the Cosmic Trust to anyone we may meet. And as you begin to walk, you see that Kelzar starts to, his face hardens a little bit as he looks around. And you see Dr. Norelios becomes a little concerned and, stands closest to him. But that's all. Right. So you arrive at the restaurant. It is mostly outdoors, quote unquote outdoors. There is an indoor component, but there is a bar that sort of circles in a horseshoe shape around this lovely patio that is upraised and overlooks the city. Clear view of this brilliant simulated moonlight, and food is brought to you. There's music playing. There's a holographic band that is playing very gentle, kind of jazzy sort of music. And you see that the menu here is meant to represent a lot of different foods from the Ilias galaxy. There's food from the Kithrali, and the Volkai. Pondu don't have food.
We don't eat or drink.
Yeah. And there's some human staples as well. This is the go-to sort of, we have everything, but we're actually more of a restaurant and not a club, like some of the other places are. So as food starts to come and you're listening, you're exchanging pleasantries and information. Eventually, Kelzar finally leans forward and speaks very bluntly. I have a concern.
Please, do share.
I do not understand why a vessel such as this should allow so many civilians to participate in the mission. Would you care to explain, Commander?
Well, it is our belief that having families and civilians aboard not only will add to the crew's morale, but will allow for a more organic experience as we make contact with these new peoples. If your concerns are of a security-based nature, please understand that everyone aboard has been vetted multiple times over.
Dr. Volan chomps down on a full cube of cheddar. And goes, I can see the value in this. I certainly feel more at ease, and I'm learning more about your cultures. I can understand the utility in this, despite the dangers. And Dr. Norelios shoots daggers in her direction, and she sort of cocks a brow, closes her mouth, and nods.
No, please. If it is not too much, or would be an insult, I would like to hear your concerns to the fullest.
Kelzar says, well, as I'm sure you understand, we are newer to long-term space travel than others in this galaxy, and as such have tried to develop on our own with as little assistance from others as possible. We do not wish to burden others with our nascent state. We are deeply ashamed of our past, and how close behind us that past is, in so much as we do not wish to be burdened by the wars and troubles of others while we are still trying to form our own identity on such a large scale. This collaboration is an opportunity for us to grow as a people, and we welcome it. I do not mean any disrespect by this line of questioning. It is simply difficult for our people to understand a justification for putting those who have no understanding of the reality of dangers and combat into a situation where it is very possible.
I understand. As you may or may not be aware, our galaxy has seen war. There are crew members who have been a part of that war, or have parents who were part of that war. It is also relatively fresh to us. While these are civilians that live on the ship, they are fully ready to accept the responsibility of what that means to be here, to take our galaxy's history and push it forward with us. They all understand and have been somewhat trained on the realities of a red alert. They made their choice to be here. Everyone you see around you is working towards the same goal and understands the risks of space travel.
You see Kelzar eases a little bit at this. And as he does, so do the other two. Well, more so Norelios. It seems very much like Volan is the least affected
She's chilling.
by the presence of a priest, question mark. But Norelios goes, this is very well said, Commander. I believe this shall be a very fruitful collaboration. Speaking of which, your fruits are very, they are quite delicious, I must admit.
They come from our ship's arboretum. which is helmed by our science commander, Tufti. Ruiso is actually one of Tufti's favorite students.
We would be greatly intrigued to hear of your methods of cultivating crops in deep space. We value such things ourselves, though our methods are most likely more rudimentary than yours. We prefer the company of plants.
I am sure Commander Tufti would be happy to impart whatever knowledge he can.
Well, I am sure if your Commander Tufti selected you for this mission, then you shall perform it with honor and grace.
Yes, yes.
Some say that is what Ruiso is known for.
I give like a very awkward smile and a thumbs up.
He turns to Rudy. Forgive my bluntness, but you are what you would call a traditional human, are you not?
Yep, that's an accurate statement.
I will admit your expertise is most welcome on this mission. Not only your interest in demolitions, but the history of your people is quite similar to ours.
Yeah, that's an accurate statement. I wish it wasn't the case for either of our peoples, but it's good to have someone who knows.
Well, you are fortunate. You have had generations to grow and change. And there are some among you who have even found a way to grow and change eternally. Those who choose not to, well, I do not wish to overstep. I must simply commend your people for so elegantly overcoming what for many others could have constituted a great cultural divide amongst your own people. And in such a confined space with a shared purpose, it is an impressive feat. And I wish you well on this continued journey.
Ooh.
Yeah. He is not a knower.
Dr. Feng is sitting across the table from you, by the way, and is like looking at you as Norelius is saying this, and it's like,
ooh. Well, it's my belief that while the container or the vessel may change, the soul stays the same. So,
this gets Kelzar's attention. You believe in the soul. This word. Our translators are doing much work for us here. And so this word has translated for us as something perhaps different. But from the context I can infer the type of thing you may be speaking of. Can you elaborate on what is this soul?
the soul, the spirit, the essence of one's being, who they are, how they act. Oh God, I'm an engineer. I'm not much for the spiritual side of things. But yeah, at least how I understand it, when you transcend, you're just put in a new body, but pretty much everything about you stays the same. So, everything goes with you except the flesh. I gotta believe that it just follows along.
Perhaps we have even more in common than we think. An intangible, unprovable thing. Something to span all divides. Something indestructible. The eternal self. This is the greatest of all things. I propose a... turns and whispers. Norelios whispers in his ear. A toasting to the enrichment of all of our souls.
Think.
You all take a drink, and the conversation continues for the duration of the meal. And eventually, Ruiso, you get a ping from Commander Tufti. We have completed our scans of the surface of the planet. Would you and the Sundrul please make your way to the bridge at your earliest convenience to analyze some of these results?
Right away, Commander. If you don't pardon, if you may pardon the interruption, the bridge has finished scanning your planet. If you would like to go see the results, we can head to the bridge this moment.
Volan goes, may I take more of these cubes?
That is a type of cheese made of milk from one of the mammals of Earth. It is called cheddar.
We had a similar thing on our planet before. Unfortunately, the animal is now extinct. Anyway, and she puts several cubes of cheddar into a bag as you begin to make your way.
Eating cheddar out of a bag at 3 a.m.
It's gonna be one of those episodes.
As
mozzarella resets.
As you head to the bridge, you see the captain and Tufti are gathered around the readout, and then Tufti pulls it up holographically and then expands it, sort of blows it up so that you can all look at it together.
Blows it up.
Tufti begins to speak, still like stroking his little fluffy goatee. He goes, well, Lieutenant Ruiso pointed out that the Sundrul scanners, most specifically the sort of gaps in its ability, is in moving even deeper to a microscopic level. And so, due to his findings, we were able to fine-tune our scanners and make sure that we were looking very specifically on that scale, and I believe that we have found something most interesting. Tell me, are any of you familiar with this substance? And he pulls up a sort of chemical composition. So everyone is welcome to take a good look at this if you want to. I have a feeling that our science officer is going to be the one who really understands it, but there's a chance that you could all have a basic understanding of what this looks like. So everyone can make a brains roll on this. I'm going to say this is not necessarily biology is the thing. I think this is just straight brains because you're not sure what it is until you know what it is.
With advantage, though?
Advantage for you, yes.
And the DC?
The DC is going to be, I'm going to call it a 13.
Oh.
I do not. I rolled a 3.
I got 19.
Ooh.
I got an 18.
Oh,
Damn.
excellent.
Hell
Okay,
yeah.
so Rudy, you're looking at a chemical formula for some element or something, and you're like, this is not what I do.
I don't know. Does it blow up? Fuck.
But both Ruiso and CTA, you're looking at this chemical composition, and what you see is some kind of crystalline compound.
A crystalline entity?
It looks like it is comprised of very small crystals about the size of like table salt. And it itself is giving off very trace levels of the same radiation present on the planet. But it looks like it's been highly compressed and changed in its state. So, Ruiso, your science knowledge, right, makes this easier for you. Very obviously, you can see that this is some sort of compressed crystal that has been piling up in places and, like, fusing to itself and making larger crystals. You can tell that the reason why it wasn't picking up on their scanners, even though it's not microscopic now, was because the signature, the radiation signature, is very unassuming. It's very easily masked by the rest of the radiation, like, saturating the planet, right? But the reason CTA is able to identify it is because looking at this, it looks very much like a raw crystalline catalyst. Not terribly dissimilar to the crystals that are used to catalyze the matter-antimatter reactions that power the warp drive.
Ooh.
It is something very similar. It is a little bit different because it's native, presumably, to this planet and not coming from, like, Unal.
Mm-hmm.
But this is clearly something that is a raw form of what could very easily be a powerful power source
For warp.
for warp,
Mhm.
or for, I mean, it could be used to make explosives technically too. But yeah, just in its raw crystalline form.
This was found, this was found in the fungus?
No, not in the fungus, but near it.
A byproduct, perhaps.
Perhaps. We are not certain. However, there is a distinctive pattern. Have a look for yourself.
Computer, enhance.
Mm-hmm. Amos, whoop, make it bigger.
Hey,
Begin.
make it clap. Amos, screenshot that.
So looking at the pattern, actually no, I'll say this is Toofty. So Toofty goes, it seems as though piles of this substance are most present in areas where the fungus is most highly concentrated. However, it appears that places where the fungus has sprouted into mushrooms and is least irradiated, places where the mushrooms have done their most work already, that is where the highest density of these crystals seem to be. However, we are picking up traces of them in places that are yet more irradiated, where the fungus is still newer growth.
Okay. Let me understand.
Mhm.
There is... Did you say that coming off of these crystals, there is still, like, a trace amount of radiation?
Yes.
Is it the same kind as the radiation of the planet?
Yes.
And it's,
But it has been changed in state somehow. It has been refined and compressed into something that could be used as a power source.
I see. Okay. Interesting.
There are other chemical compounds as well, but you have a feeling you're going to have to take a closer look at it.
So, in theory, this crystalline compound and refined material could be collected and cleared away, and then wherever we cleared it away from would be free from radiation.
That is what it appears to be. It appears that the highest density of these crystals is present in places where the fungus has drank up basically all of the radiation in the soil in a given spot.
And then pooped it back out. Maybe. Okay. I certainly believe this to be a good omen for the health of the planet.
I will say, says Dr. Neurelius, we have never seen such a substance before. Now, obviously, we have not been able to traverse the planet's surface nor detect this substance before. However, this fungus is not entirely new. We have seen it before. During the war, we were aware that such a thing was theoretically possible and had observed it in instances. But at no point did we ever see such a byproduct as this. And this still does not explain why, very suddenly, this fungus began to proliferate rapidly. However, there could be a correlation.
Dr. Neurelius, if I
Yes.
may cut in, this may be a somewhat painful question, but do you know what type of fuel was used in your nuclear warheads so that I have a better idea of what we may encounter down there?
Largely fossil fuels,
I mean,
quite crude.
the explosive material.
Oh, yes.
These translators, man. We need to update them.
So here's where we get above table for a second. So it is going to be something that is very, like, distinctly 21st century adjacent. It is like pre-warp nuclear warfare.
That cobalt we were talking about.
Uranium or plutonium or some shit like that.
Mhm.
All right.
An equivalent. Like, it gives you the name of something that is a unique name, and then you look at the chemical signature as he pulls it up, and it's like, okay, I get this. This is ancient.
Okay.
Ancient garbage. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right. Thank you for that. I'm not sure that we have any protective equipment that would fit you, but it will allow me to equip the rest of the field team better. I'll look into if we have anything like that.
Well, Dr. Feng goes, well, actually, that's we've been working on that. Me and Tufty together, and we've been building a. We're ready. I mean, like, before we were working. You know, when we were in communication. Yeah.
Yeah, I dig you.
Yeah.
What does this dig mean?
Honestly, that might, because I should imagine there might be a bit of digging. Perhaps, depending on how deep the roots of this fungus grow.
Are there any specific mission goals? Is there a certain amount of fungus you would like to recover for further study? Or now that we see this crystalline component, is there any sort of quotas we should be hitting? Or anything you would like hard goals to be hit by the end of this field mission.
Well, our overarching goal is to return to our home planet. Sundrulla too has served us very well, but there is a spiritual connection to the place we come from. If it can be saved, we would like to do so. Our greatest goal is to ascertain why this has suddenly happened. Our projections were solid. This was not a mistake on our part. This is something unanticipated. We do not simply wish to assume that it is going to be all right for us to rehabitate our planet so quickly. As long as it remains a mystery, we will remain skeptical. And that skepticism pollutes our hope that we may yet again set foot on our own soil. In short, we must determine why this fungus has spread and if it is truly safe.
Understood. Any other questions from the field team or from you, Dr. Feng?
No, I'm looking at these readouts and I know what I have to bring. I've also become familiar with your the Sundrul physiology and adapted some things.
Excellent. I believe we are ready if you are.
Tufty goes, Ruiso, your scanner, and gives you like a beefed up microbiology scanner.
Oh, thank you, Commander.
My pleasure.
That's just your dad.
Your tiny, fluffy dad.
It's true. It's the lore.
The captain turns to acknowledge the group. He goes, well then, if all of you are ready, you have my leave to go. Be sure to report in as often as possible. We shall be monitoring the situation. You will, of course, be taking the Sundrul's shuttle. I would prefer to have Mr. Laddie up here piloting the ship for now. You should not require his services for this particular mission. Laddie kind of swivels around in his chair and be like, you'll have to do it without me. And Captain goes, right, dismissed. So you head back down to the shuttle bay.
Rudy's gonna make a quick detour to grab stuff from his room. And when he meets up with you guys again, he's in it's like an exoskeleton, but not like a powered one. It just uses springs and coils, and underneath is like a rad suit. And he's got like Geiger counters and masks for you guys.
Yeah, so actually all of you do need to go to the med bay first, and Dr. Feng starts walking you through the suits that you'll all be wearing. So for Constant, the suit sort of seals up around the bowl, and then you should have your own like ways of shielding and fortifying the actual like sphere itself, the quote unquote glass part of it. So you don't need to have like a new helmet or anything, but all of you are wearing this. It is armored, but it's in your colors, and they all have these kind of bubble helmets that are half metal and then have a faceplate that stretches out a little bit so you still have peripheral vision. And it is surprisingly like comfortable and soft inside. You can feel that it has a sort of cooling function sort of regulate your body temperature because you're going to be in this irradiated environment, is definitely not as claustrophobic as it could be. And so, the three of you, Dr. Feng, and your three new companions all head to this strange shuttlecraft. And as you ascend the ramp up inside of it, you definitely see a bare minimum amount of decoration in here. Everything is functional and comfortable, and that is as far as they felt they needed it. Like, space exploration to them is a utility. It serves a purpose, and it's not a luxury. And you do see that there are various symbols. You see a lot of symbols of... It almost looks like a circle with a straight, like, parallel line through it. But when you look at it closer, the line gets kind of fuzzy in the middle, like it sort of cracks and, like, meanders, but it is mostly linear, kind of bisecting this circle. That is the symbol that you see most often. You'd see Dr. Volan takes the helm. You take off. As the shuttle bay opens, you pass through that shimmering blue force field. The atmosphere comes up to greet you. These thick, misty clouds. You penetrate the atmosphere, you then see a surprisingly blue morning sky. The sun is shining very brightly overhead. They just have a single sun. It's what's below that is most shocking. As you crest closer and closer to the surface, you can see the continent specifically that you are going to be landing in. You can't even make out the details of what this place would have looked like before. There are just craters everywhere. Very few buildings are left standing, and the ones that are more in the distance. They're, like, not really where you're going. If anything, the landscape seen from above seems like small sort of villages and areas of, like, little, like, communities and towns with the occasional tall building, and then between them are the larger, more what might have been like the metropolitan areas that are just holes in the world. Black and charred. And then as you get even closer, you start to see that a lot of that blackness is not char. It is this strange, crumbly, somewhat spongy black mold that is growing in patches everywhere. Concentric circles, almost, like it's reaching out toward these central blast points. There is no grass in sight. It is all just dirt and ash. There is a somber silence among the Sundrul. But as you prepare to land, it is Dr. Volan who tells you, "We are going to begin our search in Orla Square. This was once a, well, it was a seat of government for a faction of our people. This was arguably the most irradiated area. This should be a good place to start, as it is now, the least. We will land on the outskirts of the crater. Preparing the landing sequence. You see Kelzar is sitting with his fingers steepled, just like eyes fixed out the view screen, almost not moving at all, just watching. Finally, the shuttle comes to rest, and you step out and you feel your suit doing not a lot, actually. The ground is somewhat soft underfoot, and you are standing at the edge of the beginning of a gradual slope into a city-sized crater. There are rivulets of melted and then rehardened metallic ore of some kind, the only evidence that any buildings were ever here. But what you see is a spiral of dark black mold. The patches of it have all sprouted these gnarled and somewhat bulbous mushrooms that reach out like fingers toward the center, like they were growing toward where the radiation was coming from. It doesn't look like they started like growing in the center and moved out. It looks like they started outward and were growing in, which is consistent with the history that you are aware of, specifically like Chernobyl sort of being the first big instance of people being aware of a mold like this on Earth. It grows toward the thing it's trying to eat. You have your scanners. Where would you like to start?
Yeah, scan that mold.
Scan that mold.
So you get closer as well, as you're sort of standing on the edge of this crater. Because it's so huge, I think it's harder to see, but the closer you get, the more you realize that something is catching the sunlight in the center of this area. And what you realize is, because of the slope of this, you realize there are piles of this rock salt like ever so slightly tinted white crystal, and it looks like rock candy, but it's more granular in a way. Like, it really, you can see how it's made of a bunch of littler grains that have fused together by proximity and time and whatever process naturally they're going through. But the slope of the crater has made them all sort of fall inward, so they're all like gathered up, and if you were to walk in the center of the crater, you'd be like ankle deep in it.
Wow. Yeah, I think I'll kind of stay on the outskirts for now, and just take a scan of the mold and the fungus that are kind of like making its way towards the center.
Okay, so you can go ahead and make a brains roll with your myconology. I'm going to make the DC 12, and every degree above, you will get something a little more specific and interesting, perhaps illuminating.
I will also start scanning with Ruiso and give you advantage.
Awesome. I had assumed that I had advantage anyway,
Yeah.
because it's
yeah, for
related to
gore,
my...
but
No, I
You can give
appreciate
Rudy
it.
advantage on something.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay, I rolled a 21.
damn.
9, 20, 21. Okay, so you're one level of 5 above, right?
How many? Yeah, it was 12,
Because it was a
right?
12. 17.
Oh, I do have a star point, so I could. I'll add that to a 22, and
I will
make
tell
it
you, yeah, if you spend that, you will get an even better, more specific thing.
I'll do that.
Okay. So, what you find is that you are not reading any residual radiation off of these mushrooms anymore.
Hmm.
They are functionally dead.
Hmm.
You don't see that they have really released any spores. You would be able to tell that. That's not the kind of fungus this is. Looking at these scans, it would need something else to carry its material to spread. It needs in your experience, like looking at mushrooms on other planets, something like this that doesn't naturally give off spores, usually it's something feeding on it that then moves the the material somewhere else and then like excretes it and then causes more of this to grow somewhere else, right? That's what you figure. They specifically, though, appear to be drained of all of their moisture. They are dried and crumbling apart to the point where if you touch one, it just crumbles almost to dust. You know that mushrooms only sprout out of mold, especially in this kind, when it is trying to proliferate.
Mm-hmm.
You can clearly tell that these things were drinking in the energy. And something about the chemical composition of the mushrooms, it does uh, take it in and absorb it and use it to grow. And that is like the process that it went through to become mushrooms. But what happened to the mushrooms after that, why they have been like drained of all moisture, that's where the mystery is. And you still don't see, looking only at the mushrooms, what would have caused this weird rock salt stuff to form.
Yeah. Um, you had said that the mold was going from the outside in
Mm-hmm.
towards the crater in kind of like a spiral formation
Mm-hmm.
around the crater. How far into the crater has it gotten? Like, has it reached the rocks, like the center, like
Yeah,
where
it got pretty much to like it covers almost the entire area.
and the fungus, and from what I can see, the fungus that's growing on the mold is all consistently drained of moisture.
Yes.
Uh, okay, I see.
And with that extra level above,
Mm,
not only are they drained of moisture, they are also drained of proteins of some kind. You are not getting a radiation signature off of them anymore. The only thing coming off of the scanner that is pinging radioactive still nearby you in this vicinity is coming from the crystals.
yeah.
The mushrooms have been drained of their radiation, and they've also very been clearly drained of nutrients. Nutrients that are like contained in the moisture that is now gone.
Hmm.
So you're left to assume that maybe something could have been feeding on the mushrooms as well.
Yeah. Uh, I will go and just relay that to the party.
I think Rudy, um, given what he knows about their projections of how long it would take for the planet to naturally, like, the radiation levels to go back down, um, and the blast radius of here, I think he would uh try and calculate to see like how one, how big this bomb was, and two, how far it spread its radioactive material, uh given the size of this blast.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, definitely like many more hundreds of miles beyond this crater for sure. This is just like the impact zone and like the blast zone.
uh Dr. Norelios,
Yes.
uh do you know if the nuclear warheads that were detonated, were they set to detonate in air or on the ground?
This is the thing I didn't research. I don't know the difference.
So in air, it like detonates in air. Think Hiroshima and Nagasaki. If you were to detonate on the ground, it would detonate on the ground. It would lead to different blast impacts. I think in air detonations would spread more things if it was a dirty bomb, but on the ground it would leave the ground around it more radioactive. Ooh, shit. Let me look that up. Actually.
Yeah, I think so. The issue here is that it was largely making the area unlivable, right? Like that is you can what you figure. Or did you want to roll too? Because there's information that you just know from knowing about this, but
yeah, I was
I'm gonna have you make a roll.
intending to roll, but I'll just take free
no, go ahead and make your roll.
I mean, it sounds like they were designed to detonate on the ground because there's so many craters.
Yeah, on the ground would create more.
That's why there is no crater for Hiroshima.
Fallout. Yeah, and it's also why it was able to be quickly moved back into, relatively speaking. Oh my god, you're giving me advantage on this one, right?
Yes. Pretend I'm saying all of that in character.
Oh, I didn't give you a DC either. This is a little bit easier, so I'll give you a 10 on this one.
Oh, right, and it's demolition, so I would know this shit. Ooh, all right, that one explodes.
Let's go.
I can roll. Oh, explodes again.
Ooh.
Oh my god.
Right.
Ironic.
Ooh, don't say that. 17. 29.
Okay, where are you looking, by the way?
You know
where are you
these
being?
bombs.
He's on the edge, one edge of the crater, looking at the other edge, and like, you know, using like a data pad or something to like get an aerial view of it, and then just generally using his experience.
Okay. Even before Dr. Norelios confirms, you already know from looking at it that it was definitely detonated on the ground. And you can clearly see that like there was intention here to not only cause the most damage, but to irradiate the soil specifically, to make the land unlivable.
Salt the earth.
I want to give you something extra and good for this roll. I'm going to say because you remain outside of the crater while those who are studying the mushrooms have moved into it, with that exceptional success, you notice a pattern that the others haven't seen yet. What you see is grooves in the crater that look like, bit by bit, this crystalline substance was like falling off the areas where the mushrooms are and being like dragged down into the center, but you are not like taken by a thing, like gravity was causing them, because they're dense and heavy. You can clearly see that they were produced ? Somewhere around where the mushrooms were, and then gravity did the rest and like gathered it in the center.
Ruiso, I think
Yes.
maybe the mushrooms produce these crystals, maybe some sort of sap. I noticed that it looks like it dropped off and then rolled into the center. If you look at the grooves from where I'm standing.
Interesting. Looking back at the mushrooms, do I see any like residual crystalline material on the mushrooms themselves, or are
Nope.
they
And you know
even
for a
around?
fact, no, not even around it. You notice
Yeah.
the grooves now that it's been mentioned. You see that, yeah, the pattern, clearly these crystals must have fallen from the mushrooms, but there are no like pores. There's nothing in the molecular structure of the mushroom that indicates that these crystals would have come from the mushrooms themselves. Everything you're seeing indicates that something fed off of the mushrooms.
Is it possible that this crystalline granule is not a byproduct of the mushrooms, but of whatever has been feeding on the mushrooms?
That would be my most likely theory at this point.
If this is true, and I must agree with your conclusion so far, I'm not getting any signs of any living creatures around this area. Certainly not here.
Well, you said that Tufty found that this crystalline compound has been found in areas where there is still heavy radiation, correct?
Yes.
It is possible that this is a migratory creature who has moved on to the next available feeding source.
Your conclusion is sound. Perhaps we should shift our search to such an area where we may observe this process happening in real time.
Are there any evidence of, I guess when they say that there's no evidence of living creatures, that means we don't see any like tracks, no fur, nothing of that sort. Yeah.
I mean, you can look for that specifically. You can try to roll
Sure.
for it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I would like to.
Okay.
Yeah, I would do that as well.
This is going to be a resolve check,
All right.
I believe. That feels right because it's observational. You're not trying to like
Sure.
put pieces together. You're just trying to look for
Yeah.
something. I would say anything like survivalist could factor into this. I think Rudy might have like a survival skill or something like that.
Nope.
I don't know why I thought that.
I have a mechanical investigation skill.
So it's just going to be I'm gonna call it a 6.
I got 11.
I got a 10.
I rolled a 6.
Hey.
Okay. I'm gonna say on some of the mushrooms that are most intact, the ones that are, let's see, the ones on the outer edge would have grown first.
Mm-hmm.
So the ones on the inside closest to the crystals would be the last ones to have grown and then been dried out by whatever is feeding on them, right? So in these mushrooms that are closest to the center, I'm rolling this into your outstanding success here because you're looking at this together. It occurs to you to not necessarily look through the scanner for this, but to just look through like a microscope, right? So I think you probably have a mode or like a device that just is for magnification.
Yeah.
Like digitally. And you look very closely and you do see these microscopic, or almost just barely not microscopic, impressions on the surface of the mushroom, like something could have been latched on there, the tiniest little groove. It's you almost want to say it's nothing, but it's here. They are maybe barely the size of like a period.
All right. I'll relay that to the rest of the group and say, it's entirely possible that the thing we're looking for is tiny.
Some sort of insect, or I don't know what technical classification a tardigrade is, but like something that is very small but very sturdy, similar to a tardigrade from Earth.
I think so. I know Earth cockroaches are known to survive nuclear explosions. So maybe there is something similar on this planet.
And termites, they produce a very grainy sort of waste product after they've eaten. Perhaps it is something similar to that, this crystalline compound.
Volan is gonna go, well, this creature that you're describing, what was the word that you used? The tardigrade?
Tardigrade, yes.
I believe we have a creature somewhat similar to this in our history here, but never anything that could drink radiation. And certainly not anything that creates something like this. Though, if I remember my history of biology specifically, a creature such as that is known for excreting crystals.
And if it were to survive multiple nuclear blasts, it is possible that the radiation could give it a mutation that would allow it to, in turn, eat that radiation.
It is a bit far-fetched, but it is possible. Well, if there is nothing more for us to learn here, perhaps we should move on. I have an idea of where to start.
No, please, go.
Well, this is the most radiated. Perhaps we should travel to the least. She turns to her companions and they all nod. Nerelios goes, I understand. You are referring, of course, to the Great Fracture. We did detect, perhaps most surprisingly, that this fungus has been growing there. Our attacks were numerous, but out of reverence and respect, even amongst our great animosity toward our different factions based around our differing beliefs, at our core, we did not want to upset our gods. And the Great Fracture, we left it untouched. Besides, no one lived there. It was something of a border for our two factions. That is where we should go.
Before we pile in, I feel I should ask, you didn't get any of those little guys on your suits, right?
Which little guys?
The guys that eat the radiation and stuff. I want to make sure it doesn't eat through the suits too.
I don't think we found any here.
We haven't detected them yet. That is another concern, is that your scanners can penetrate on a microscopic level. Why would you not detect such a creature?
You know, weird stuff happens all the time out in the galaxy, so I'm just getting used to asking the basic questions. But if nothing's amiss, let's go. I can't find a rhyme for that.
So you head into the shuttle, take back to the sky. And Rudy, you have that rolling around in your mind. This idea of like, okay, what if this creature got into the suits? And you start getting in your own head about it, I think. The idea of that you haven't been able to detect the creature, but that is a possibility. Because you keep thinking about it, I'm gonna have you make... I'm gonna have you make a brawn roll.
Brawn.
Brawn?
Fight
Brawn.
off these creatures.
Hello? You start just like punching yourself.
Just tweaking the fuck out.
Rudy is fighting demons.
I will say resolve tends to be a resistance stat too. That's more, resolve is the resistance stat. This is something that you're worried about happening to your body, so whichever of those you feel more confident with.
We resolve. Since my field team commander is right in front of me and I don't want to look like a tool, do I get advantage?
I have to help in some way.
Yeah, and you don't know this is happening. This is something, this is as you're thinking about it. So you're gonna have a DC of 10.
Oh my god.
Nope, that's a 7.
7? Okay.
No!
So the more that you think about this and worry about this, you feel yourself getting a little bit clammy. And you're historically pretty cool under pressure. But you feel yourself starting to perspire a little bit. And you get like just ever so slight tinge of lightheadedness for a moment, and then it passes like a wave. It's consistent with what might be like a brief panic response or like an extreme worry response. But
Right.
still, it weighs on your mind.
Do I want to bring this up?
Do you?
Baby. I think he'll grab the dock and kind of pull him to the side of the shuttlecraft and be like, "Hey, can you check me out real quick? Make sure that I don't have any secret microorganisms in me that'll make me like betray the crew." Dr. Feng.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have a frame of reference for detecting anything like that, but I can just run a basic bioscanner just to see if I can pick anything up.
Yeah. Ease the mind.
He's rolling. He's rolling dice.
He rolled those dice.
Huh.
Don't say that. Don't say that.
Well, I don't see any evidence of a creature per se, but there is a 0.57-ish decrease in your body's moisture.
Oh,
Like,
all right.
very, very minute amount, but enough to be noteworthy.
Groovy. We should not have a Pondu with us on this mission anymore.
Yeah,
was
I
gonna say,
am
do we hear
moisture.
this now?
Well, not
Yeah.
0.57 is like 57%. Like 0.057.
0.57.
Like a little bit.
5% is still a lot.
5%'s a lot.
Yeah.
All right. So I'll reveal that to the crew, and then I'll be like, "First officer, maybe we should get you like quarantined back up in space before we go after this moisture eating whatever it is.
That is definitely a valid concern. Dr. Feng, would you mind scanning me?
Making sure that they are all I forget the exact amount of volume.
1.26.
That that
0.26.
roll was so incredible
Mm.
that I think it's just gonna go around, and they go, no change for you, Commander.
Oh, that's good.
I have a theory. I hold no nutrients in my body that could be helpful to a living creature. However, those of you who are squishy have proteins and salts and sugars in your body that could be fuel for whatever creature this is.
Okay, should I be scanned? Because I was kind of in the thick of it when I was doing my own scans at the crater.
Yes, I believe
Probably.
everyone of organic makeup should be scanned at this moment.
They do systematically go through every single person, including themselves, and they finally sit back down and go, okay. So all of you are showing the same rate of moisture loss, and you're right, there are certain proteins that are at play here as well. If this rate were to continue, you could theoretically, there's no light way to put it, you could theoretically be drained of your body's moisture and the nutrients you need to live in a matter of give or take 3 hours. But the
3
only
hours.
people who are not affected are myself and the commander.
I shake my boot to see if any crystals have formed and are just rattling around in there.
No, nothing.
Okay.
Aren't you glad that you're part of the away team for this one, Ruiso?
Hey. I mean, this is a monumental discovery here. You know, I'm trying to look at the silver lining of it all.
It's within my authority to stop this mission as the chief medical officer, at least from our perspective. However, if this is due to some kind of creature, well, we would run the risk of bringing it back to the ship.
Knock off that bingo card, getting quarantined, separated, have to stay on the planet.
We haven't done that yet, but yeah, I think we're in it, and we just need to.
We just have to figure out what's happening within 3 hours.
Yeah, drink more water.
No
I
big
guess.
deal.
As the shuttle crests across the horizon, you see coming up to greet you on the view screen is this immense gash in the earth. It is a fault line. A deep, Grand Canyon-like trench with jagged, craggy cliffs spreading all the way down, and in fact, evidence of patches of brown grasses within it and around it. And you clearly see, even from above, some fresh, fungal growth, with more spongy, healthy-looking mushrooms growing all around both sides of this divide. As you look at it, you can't help but notice the symbol on almost like a wooden coin that is dangling from the dashboard, almost like a charm. that image of a jagged fault line bisecting a circle. As Dr. Feng presses the button for their communicator, it says, Captain Okita, this is Dr. Feng reporting. I have some less than ideal news. And that is where we will pick up in part 2.
Oh. Do we get a response? Do we have to cross this off the bingo chart yet?
I don't know if we're gonna get bingo this time, guys.
Well, I guess we'll find out next time on Dragon
Yeah.
Ball Z.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay, guys. Very different kind of episode. I am very excited.
I'm
So-
sad. And also desperately trying to find the right way to ask them about their religious war, because I want to know.
So true, Vesty.
Okay. Well, thank you for joining us for part 1. Be sure to catch the thrilling conclusion in part 2 of Starlit Future, Necrosynthesis. See you next time. Keep it cosmic. Bye!
Bye!